We are Wargate books, and when we're not into all sorts of our own trouble, we are into that guy, Peter Nealon, who is releasing his next book in the Lost series. And we're here to talk about that, but we have a special guest star today. We have Jeremiah, who's been doing our covers and has been slamming that noise out of the park. How you doing, sir? Crickets. Crickets. Can he hear you and not hear me?
I don't know.
Because that's going to get weird.
Yeah.
So how you doing, Pete?
Oh, not too bad.
Right. So
Slamming away at book 6 right now.
right, like you should be. So to start things off, where did you come up with the concept for this title? Because this title is just it just rolls off the tongue really nice.
It honestly just kind of came. I had an initial idea, just kind of around the. It's very much a sort of hybrid war, sort of irregular, behind the scenes sort of thing happening to try and bring the target down before the main army gets there. So I'm like, curse and knife or what have you, and then it just kind of came to me that I'd already gone away from the strong word of the first 3 books with Swords Against the Night, and just the alchemy of treason popped into my head, because alchemy for the sorcery side, and we've got some very treasonous people in this book, so it kind of went together.
Right on. I mean, that's such a really cool title in the way of yeah, Jeremiah is saying he can't hear me. It's such a cool title because it really speaks to how like a subversive element works. It's not so much a straightforward run up and punch you in the teeth kind of evil. It mixes and blends and gets together until something either explodes, catches on fire, or changes shape. So I thought that title was really, really great.
And it gets you looking in the wrong direction too.
Yes.
Not saying that happens in this book at all. No.
Now, can you talk? Can you give us the 30-second elevator pitch for what happens in this book?
Okay. We start with our beleaguered and somewhat numerically lesser platoon returning to the kingdom of Corlagir after the events of Swords Against the Night. So these guys have been through hell. They've been dragging across the haunted plains they crossed in that book. And they find that not all is well back where they came from, because somebody is stirring things up to crack the kingdom in half, or in fact put someone who doesn't belong on the throne, while the Empire of Aranator masses forces on their doorstep.
And this is where we start to get some really in-depth dealings with the Emperor and stuff like that, right? Because we saw him in a little bit in 5.
We start to really see the Emperor in 6.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
He's kind of a figure in the background in this one, because he's pulling the strings, but he's doing it all deniably. I took that sort of hybrid, irregular sort of war, and translated it into a sword and sorcery.
Nice.
So it's not all formations against fortifications. It's sneaky stuff in the dark too.
Plots and plans and all sorts of stuff like that.
Very dark.
Right on. The Low Pro saying it's Saruman and Wormtongue. I know it. So is there a is there a process that you have to go through to get to a book 5 and still have it as imaginative and as kind of like hard hitting as like a book 2 or 3?
Well, hard hitting. It starts with violence. Start with a bang, start with violence, and go from there. Sometimes that can happen sort of in media res, and then I build off of that. Other times, like here, it's like I got to get. I left them breaking contact out of Gremlin after the dragon in book 4, so I got to get them back to where they need to be for this book. So that's why the opening chapter is Connor stalking a man with a buoy and stabbing him to death.
So where does that Marine Corps fascination with a knife kill come from?
It's just one of those things. It probably goes back to just our ancestral taking scalps or heads or what have you. Everybody wants to have that knife kill because it means you got up close and personal to do it.
Yep. It's all about confronting the enemy tooth to tooth and face to face. I was hoping, let's see if we can trick Jeremiah into kind of participating. Let's see if I can do this. Can you talk about your process? We're cheating.
Yeah.
In creating the cover.
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yep. Not the first time communications have broken down between the Marine Corps and the Army.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. Yep. Nothing like dead air.
Hey, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So for some reason I can't hear Walt's audio, but he asked me to talk about the creative process for this cover.
Do that.
So, creative process for this cover was pretty standard. It starts with, the client, in this case, Pete, talking about what the scene should be comprised of. And I always love it when an author talks about what they want to see, because I really think that for me personally, at least even for my private work, books are the number one source of inspiration. So I just love getting feedback and ideas from authors, from writers. So yeah, Pete came to me with this idea, and let me bring up the cover so I can talk about it in more depth. But this idea of some kind of sorcerer, I haven't read this book yet, so I can't really talk about it, who this guy is yet. So
Slacker.
Hopefully.
Did he hear me?
Pete, can you let me read these books first? Because I want to get into them. Anyway. Yeah, so
we'll see if we can work something out.
Awesome. Yeah, no big deal if not, but that'd be awesome. Anyway, so the idea was a couple undead dudes, a sorcerer, and some sort of smoke monster that doesn't seem to belong in the physical world. Hey, as an aside, is it possible for me to screen share?
Yeah,
I can show
absolutely.
you like a lot of the sketches and the in between.
Yep.
Images.
Just tell him to hit the share button at the bottom.
Yeah, hit the share button down at the bottom.
Share, okay.
Because he must not be looking at the screen.
Okay,
that
here we go.
window.
So let me get into the my folder with all the stuff.
It's all about the stuff.
1 second here.
Lopro is saying, as opposed to those smoke monsters who do belong in the physical world.
Okay, so it starts off with a sketch, right? And we just talked about it. Right now, in this sketch, there's just like some sort of innominate, dark, spectral creature and a wizard. Then I believe it called for a couple of these like undead.
He hasn't shared anything yet.
And
it's not popping up, Jeremiah.
Oh, it's not?
No, you gotta hit that button. hit share,
here we go.
and then there we go. Yep, he's got it.
There we go.
Wonderful. Okay. So yeah, I just started out with an initial sketch. I like to use a 3D program to get the basic perspective to make sure all that's working. I sketch over it with, Photoshop is what I use, just basic line work and lighting ideas. Then I come in, adding in the characters, and we talk about it. And I love playing that game of ping pong with you, Pete, and talking about what works, what doesn't, and I love the feedback. So anyway, I believe I started off with this basic environmental pass here, just with the lighting and everything, and slowly
Freaking
refining
gorgeous.
everything, adding in the characters, looking at how it will look as, just like the cover itself and not the wraparound. Zooming into the characters here, like, I redo these characters a couple times, I think, just to get them with the right look. And I think this was the first piece where Pete said, make it look like it's crouching down, like it's ready to attack. I'm talking about the spectral werewolf ghost guy. So I started working on that, and it was very tricky to get him to look right. Again, lots and lots of layers in Photoshop, lots and lots of painting. Yeah, trying to make sure it pops. It's visible from a very small thumbnail, because, like, people are seeing this on Amazon, and it needs to read well from a tiny thumbnail with a bunch of different screens, various cell phone screens set at various brightnesses, which is a real challenge. So that's the other thing I'm working on. I'm zooming in on the details, working out, say, the chainmail, but I also have to make sure everything makes sense from the thumbnail. And after that, it's just slow refinement, adding in some more life with the flowing robes and everything, and getting it to where I want it. Yeah.
And making it metal as hell.
Yeah, that was the idea. Like, why not? Like, I wanted to go back to, like, Frank Frazetta, and I think that'll sort of pop out on the Amazon Marketplace and with the readers, hopefully.
Hell yeah.
And it's so much fun to make things look more painterly,
So in the sketch, can you ask him in the sketch that I have? He
So yeah,
transitioned.
that's pretty much my process. It's just a very basic
The guy that
painting process. I do use 3D, as I said, for the basic perspective line convergence, just because it saves a ton of time and makes it, mathematically perfect. Oh yeah, the other thing in the process, I basically I set up a camera and do all the poses for the characters to make sure they make sense. So there's another folder with about 500 photos of me in various awkward poses, hoping to
we
get
need to see
something
this.
that I can
No,
sketch
we need
from.
to see this.
Well,
Tell him. Let's bust those out.
Say again?
Walt saying we need to see that.
Yeah. Well, I can show it to you on the new cover I'm working on, but I don't know if we want to reveal that just yet.
Right on. Yeah, no biggie. Ask him how he came up with the image of the guy on the stairs.
Sorry, got to
with the
relight my cigar.
Swordbreaker.
How'd you come up with the undead with the Swordbreaker?
I don't know, like, sword breakers are cool, and it's kind of fun, showing weapons that are a little bit less generic, like sword breaker. Let's see, yeah. Oh wait, that's not the sword breaker guy. I didn't add that yet. Let's go look at it here. It looks heavy metal. I think that's the main thing, and I think the dude kind of looks. I love these dudes. This guy looks like Alice Cooper, Maybe it's a little cartoony. I know your books are pretty gritty, but it was fun to do. This guy, this guy's up to no good, and he's got like a bronze halberd. But sword breakers are awesome, and
yeah. Well, in the scene, this is actually a scene that's depicted in the book, and let's just say the sorcerer is not quite all there in the head. There's he does a certain amount of giggling that's not exactly decorous, shall we say.
Well, you gave me the instruction that these guys are definitely do not belong in this place. So that's what I tried to do.
Yeah.
Make them look definitely out of place in a very bad way.
And it worked.
Thank you.
Yeah, the brush strokes are awesome. I mean, like
Yeah.
this looks like a painting. They're just amazing work. Now, did he have access to a 7.62 AR, an AR-10 or something like that to put up there?
Did you have access to an actual like Knights Armament SR-25 M110 AR-10 to model, or did you just use a photo reference for the rifle?
So, you know, I know that you have, a lot of, experience with all this kit, and I've never worn any of this kit or done any of this, so I looked at a lot of photo references, and the SR-25, I think I don't remember where I got that reference. Maybe did you send it to me? I can't remember, but
I'm
it's not a it's not a 3D model. It's just something I painted in there. I hope it's reasonably accurate because I care about these details. One of the things that I hate about like 90s era sci-fi and fantasy cover art is that you read the book, you get to know the characters and the setting, and then you go look at the cover again, and it has nothing to do with what you just read. I hate that. So I like trying to get it as accurate as possible.
yeah. Of course, the way we've been kind of working this is there. I'm coming up with the concept for these while I'm still outlining the book. So this is actually, well, they're kind of had a similar sort of thing with Swords Against the Night, that we actually had a version of a scene in the book. This next one might be a little bit more stylized as far as the lineup, but from what I've seen of the next one, nobody's going to complain because it's awesome.
Thanks.
I agree that so to folks, Jeremiah said that he was a little worried that people aren't going to be able to tell who the bad guys are in this next one. Yeah. In all seriousness, no, you're not going to have any trouble with that, but it's still pretty cool.
So as we start to approach the back half of this second trilogy, what are some things that people can expect that they didn't get in the first trilogy? Is there more scares, more thrills? Do we have a sense of accomplishment? Does somebody finally get like a real bed?
Well, I can say that one thing that is going to be continuous with the series is a lot of death. We're going to have a siege that is going to make the siege of Valhalla look like a playground spat.
Ooh, that works.
Can I interject?
Shoot.
I just want to say that siege scene was awesome. That was one of my favorite parts of this series. That siege was just fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, this scales things up a little bit. And, I don't want to get too spoilery, but nothing is ever going to be the same after book 6.
They're gonna start using artillery, aren't they?
Oh, we'll see.
You gotta love that.
That much away.
You gotta love that Cora Ansek.
Oh yeah.
So what?
Well, we know the Menenkai have a thing for stuff that goes boom.
Oh yeah.
And they really love their mortars.
So with book 6 being written right now, did the series progress as you thought it would? Was there any surprises to you as you were writing them?
Yeah, this second trilogy has kind of gone in a rather different direction than I expected. It's yeah, I'd have to go back to my notes honestly at this point, but yeah, I had Swords Against the Night was what it was, but then things were a lot different going forward from that initially. And then just from doing some talking with Jason and just stuff that I thought of while I was writing Swords Against the Night, the way the whole thing was going to come together kind of changed. And in fact, book 5 was going to be completely different when I started. They were going to be going back out instead of, we've got to do some special reconnaissance inside of a friendly country because there is an active sorceress insurgency happening.
I hate when those happen.
Yeah.
Just right.
Regular insurgencies are bad enough. You had sorcery, it just goes completely.
And it goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I liked about this series is that the sorcery is so sinister. There's not just there's not just like, I shall throw a magical meteor out of my hand like this. It's great. You'll blow up. I mean, like everything has everything has a cost. Everything when magic is cast, bad things have a tendency to happen. And you said it on the last show. You were like, yeah, there are times when I'm writing that I know that this is going to freak Walt out.
Still working on topping that cursed arrow for you.
Oh my God, that was so creepy in book 2. Oh my God. And I had to tell you about it too. So for those who haven't gotten there yet, in book 2, somebody gets shot with a cursed arrow, and like what happens to them is just horrific. Jeremiah, can you hear us? Go ahead, Pete, see if he can hear you.
Can you hear me? Crickets. I hear some movement, but
I can hear him breathing. It's
I can hear you.
Which one?
You know what? I'm actually watching the stream right now. I've got you guys muted.
Right on. So now you can hear us all. It's all good. Yeah, crickets. He might be on a delay. There's like an 8-second delay if he's watching the stream.
More or less, yes.
See, there it is. But yes,
again, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
That's right.
Or as Low Pro said, it's not cheating, it's creative winning.
Yep. So, if you guys want to pick up the Lost,
just talk like I speak a foreign language and you need to translate.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Languages are my thing. If you guys want to pick up book 5, The Alchemy of Treason, right? We got a link right here. You can just slap that in. It's nice and easy. tinyurl.com/thelost5, and that will come right up. So, what kind of sinister magic has showed up in this book that was just like, when you put it down, you were like, yeah, this is the level of evil I'm going for?
I'm having to separate book 6 and book 5 in my head because I've been hammering away at book 6 for all day, folks. So let's see. There is a let's see. Well, the scene in question on the cover has some the sorcerer lets slip some things that are part of his objective, because he's not all there in head, so OPSEC is not his strong point.
You guys are screwed because we're going to do this.
And let's just say that while he does get put down, it's not a bullet that ultimately does it. He may have a bullet in him, but that big shadowy thing behind him drags him off somewhere he doesn't want to go.
Well, they have a tendency. Um, so with magic being so prevalent, do any of the members of the reconnaissance team start picking up on it, or they know that it's a type of boom they don't want to mess with?
These are being the survivors.
Yeah, because there's not many of them.
Being the survivors, the first 3 books, who saw where that led, particularly with Captain Sorensen and Zimmerman and those guys. Yeah, these guys are not going to touch that stuff at this point.
Right on. Right on.
So,
now,
in fact, they've basically, as a platoon, even without really talking it over, by the beginning of this book, they've basically come to the conclusion that, okay, if it has to do with the outer dark, we're killing it.
damn straight.
That's what we're here for.
And
we don't really have a country anymore. We're essentially free agents, so we may as well beat on everything sorceress we can find.
now, do we get any sort of closure to the assistance that Connor's been getting this whole time?
Are you asking if we find out who his mysterious guardian is?
I'm asking if it happens. I'm not asking you to tell me because I need to get there.
I think I can safely say that yes, we find out the identity of the mysterious luminous figure he's been seeing out of the corner of his eye since coming through the coming through the mists. Yes, kill all the witches. Suffer not a witch to live.
Yep. So we get some semblance. That's a good thing, because he that has been a running theme throughout the book, that that through the series, excuse me, where while all of the magic they're being exposed to and all of these super luminous creatures that they're encountering pretty much are nothing but tooth and fang, there is something out there kind of rooting for them.
Yeah. And Connor does get to meet that figure face to face.
I can't wait. That'll be awesome. Jeremiah, can you hear us?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It works.
Hey, you know what I did? I used the Edge browser, Microsoft browser. Holy cow.
And which browser are you using now?
I was using Brave, but apparently I have to use approved browsers or something.
Yeah, that's usually a thing. Usually this one works best on Chrome. Edge will work with it. Mozilla, it's a little tricky. Noble, Opera, all those guys are kind of meh. So yeah, we were just talking about the cost of magic in the setting, but at the same time, how there are elements of like rooting for the home team, rooting for the good guys. Was there ever a point, Jeremiah, where you were drawing this and you're like, damn it, I just want to draw bunnies?
No.
Now, when you're drawing some of these covers and stuff like that, do you ever have a point where you're just like, he wants it this way, but if I do it this way, it will bang?
I've had that with other projects, but actually this kind of happened. The dragon in the first cover I did for you, Pete, you said make it black, and I was painting it black, and it just wasn't working. So I added the red, and I think it played.
Oh yeah,
and you guys let me paint a red dragon. So yeah.
I actually changed it to a red dragon in the book, so it matched up with the cover, so it worked.
That was slick, very very slick, and the fact that it looked like it had that very serpentine look to it, like a snake. It just oh my god, that thing banged on all cylinders. It was great.
I specifically said it needs to have kind of a pit viper head, because you see so many dragons. It's like there is no. It looks like a triceratops with fangs.
Yes.
This is not a triceratops with fangs. This is a serpent.
It's a serpent.
Going back to the old stuff.
Yeah.
This is the worm, the fire worm.
Yeah, absolutely.
The dragon in Gremlin doesn't spit fire, but neither did Fafnir, which is where I was going with that one. So,
yeah.
For those who are not familiar with that particular reference, Fafnir was the dragon that Siegfried killed in the Nibelungenlied, is the German version, and the Saga of the Volsungs is the Scandinavian version.
Have you read them in the original languages, or did you read them in English?
No, I have not read the Nibelungenlied. I have read the Saga of the Volsungs, and a couple of retellings. Tolkien actually retold the story in a pair of epic poems, the tale of Sigrid and Gudrun. And then a guy named Stefan Grundy wrote this massive tome called Rheingold. That was, this probably 700-page retelling of the story of the Volsungs going back to Siegfried's ancestors.
Dear God.
I hadn't realized that Attila the Hun was involved in that story too.
Holy crap!
Oh damn!
Every time Pete tries to read something in the original language, it changes to English out of fear.
Am I turning into Chuck Norris? What?
I think so. He doesn't read German. German reads him. That kind of deal. But yeah, when Jeremiah was brought in for this cover, and he transitioned into the kind of dragon that you have here. Let's see if I can. I might be able to. Can I get it to work? Filthy no good so and so. Apparently not. So I might be able to get it here. There we go. There's like some it looks kind of grainy, but what are you going to do? There's some gorgeous work on these scales, like ridiculously gorgeous work on these scales.
Oh,
like
nice.
you can see the scintillating color. You can see the shift in tone when you get to the apex of a scale versus the low valley of a scale where one scale connects to another. The ridges on the ridges on its back and the spines that it has are just amazing. This was well done. Yeah. Really, really well done.
Yeah, those are fun to do.
Fun or torturous?
You know what? I enjoyed doing those scales because I figured out a way to do it efficiently, and when you just figure out how to do something quickly and it works, what's more satisfying than that?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's why I stopped artwork, because I hated windows in like a skyscraper. doing a skyscraper scene, and this is long before Mango Studio or Clip Paint Pro or whatever you want to call it. And then you got Adobe Photoshop and all that jazz. So this was like I was drawing every window. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. So I will paint with my words. But speaking of painting with words, we have book 5 out now. If you guys are looking and watching us, you can see the URL across the screen below. And what are some of the things that people can expect in book 6? I think I broke them.
No, I'm trying to think of what to say without necessarily giving away too much.
Right on. We try not to judge.
So,
is the Outer Dark going to craft the perfect lasagna and take over the world?
The Outer Dark is. I can say that there will be another dragon.
Ooh.
And shall we say I'm better at object than the sorcerer. That's not difficult. That's a low bar. Not sure how to take that. The dragon turns out to be this dragon turns out to be somewhat more than it initially appears, and it makes the red in Grimmon in book 4 look kind of puny by comparison.
Oh damn!
And I just wrote the chapter where the dragon's name is revealed, and anybody who's been paying attention, going back to book 2, will recognize it. But that's
probably Captain Sorensen, reborn as a dragon.
No,
that's their luck.
Worse than that.
Oh God.
much worse.
Right on. So, Jeremiah, you're doing the cover for that now. The dragon's name is Karen.
That's a level of diabolical that I hadn't quite considered yet.
Sinokin saying, might be easier to list the things that don't end up shot or blown up. Spoiler free that way.
Yeah, maybe.
There's that one spoon from the second book.
There's one rock halfway around the world.
Jeremiah, you've been working on this cover for book 6.
Yeah.
How does it compare to the other covers that you've done so far? More difficult, less difficult, and if so, why?
I think there's more going on in this cover. Do you mind if I share some details about what's in it?
I think we can do probably
subject matter. Well, the past 2 covers have had one major monster, right? So this one, Pete wanted 2 major monsters, like god tier monsters. Also an entire army and a massive fortress. So there's a lot more going on, but I'm actually having more fun on this one because we're trying to make it look as metal as possible. It's a lot darker than the other ones too. And whenever you have a very dark scene, yeah, it's tricky to make sure everything pops out. You know, like I was talking about, can you read it from a thumbnail?
Thumbnail,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
My man. Yeah, that's dope. Leo saying in the chat, he's like, cover is a teaser, just don't talk about the story. Well, if you've been reading up to this point, you kind of...
I have a spoiler. Something bad goes down. Real bad.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. It's a spoiler, but not a spoiler.
Now, what are some of the... We've talked about like some of the magic and some of the eerie effect that has been going on in the series to this point. And in your other series that you do, you usually have a series of blog posts that you'll put up and like, hey, these are some of the weapons you've seen in my book. Are they going to be using stuff that we haven't seen yet? And if so, can you talk about it a little bit?
Are our guys going to be using stuff that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah, they pulling something out of the core of Ansec that's just like, yeah, this isn't working for me. Somebody get the suitcase nuke.
Honestly, not necessarily. It's very much more of a battle of maneuver and planning, and sometimes just sheer brute force rather than tech and tools.
Gotcha. That recon.
I've long been sort of more. I've long been of the opinion that war is a human endeavor, so I include some of the tech toys and stuff like that in some of my stuff. But generally speaking, I have the organizations that I depict, whether they're mercs or Triarii in Maelstrom Rising, who are kind of more of a military NGO. Their emphasis is more on skill and teamwork and getting into the enemy's hip pocket before he knows you're there and then blasting him or stabbing him.
It's that knife kill again.
Yeah.
Lopro's asking, there are some Marines who like to name their weapons with girls' names. Are any of your characters going to do that?
Not so far. I can kind of see Girk doing that, but
we're never gonna have a rifle that's called Karen because it always demands to see the manager.
I might have to put that in a later book.
That's awesome. Is that a thing in the Marine Corps? Like a common thing where, you know, I know you guys with the 338, you guys love to call that thing a Kate.
Oh man, we would have loved to have 338s. We were supposed to get 338s, and then the senior gunner of the Marine Corps canked it.
What?
Yeah, long story. The Marine Corps hates everyone, including Marines. So, yeah.
No bueno.
I want to know if one of these guys gets a blessed rifle, like they get blessed swords.
Oh yeah, that would
Do
be
angelic figures descend from the clouds with the blessed M14?
Not so far. Maybe in a subsequent story.
That would be kind of neat having that blessed rifle, and I bet you it would be one of the ones that the Tuatha use.
More than likely, yeah.
Because when book 3 they had the the stylized M1 SOCOM on there, I was like, woo! Now we're talking. Look at all that filigree. That's fancy.
I initially described it as kind of almost looks like a mag-fed musket.
That's what I was.
Like a mag-fed Hawken.
I was thinking a Hawken with an M14 mag.
Yeah.
That would be pretty wild.
It got a little bit difficult to describe that for that particular artist, so we ended up with the filigreed M1A.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, the Tuatha being the Tuatha, they don't really need optics, so they just stick with the good old iron sights.
Wow.
Well, they're Chad elves.
They're Chad elves. That's how God intended, right?
Oh yeah. That was the first thing that kind of popped into my head when it's like I knew when they first showed up. It's like, okay, yeah, these guys are not going to be elves as people think of them. Every one of them is going to be built like Hercules.
Math Gammon, I think you described him in the first book as having like a steppe nomad mustache, almost.
Yeah, they've got more of the traditional Celtic handlebars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of them have beards. Barak is just big and hairy.
That's not how most people would think of elves these days.
He's the bear. He's the bull in a china shop of the group. He's this big barrel-chested, black hair out to here, black beard out to here.
Kind of looks like a Sumerian almost.
Yeah.
Only in Celtic gear. Yeah, that's pretty dope. I mean, the great thing about this series is it diverts away from the way that media has affected mostly through anime and current incarnations of certain fantasy role-playing games. You know, you got this very effeminate, very skinny, easily breakable body of an elf, and when you look back at all of the old legends, you know, they were slight, but they weren't like, you know, rail thin.
No.
You know, I loved the depiction of the Menenkai. Those guys are just awesome. That feels like my tribe.
Those guys are squared away.
Right. But yeah, and that's the thing. Like Lopro says, it feels like you're reading a fantasy tale and not playing an RPG, especially not the modern stuff where everything seems to drift toward fairies and not like the actual fae of like Celtic mythology and stuff like that. Which, if you read some of that stuff, those things were sinister. This is it says the interesting part of the books, like there is a clash between ancient Bronze Age culture and ballistic weapons and the subsequent reaction. Well, it was certainly a surprise when they 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 uh, they shot the first guy in the first book, and yeah, that didn't go out like they planned.
Yeah.
I like how
the thing about, and I actually mentioned this a couple of times in the course of the books, that there's this impression that you take firearms into an environment like this and everybody's just going to freak out and treat it like some sort of sorcery. First of all, these people know what sorcery looks like.
Yeah.
Second of all, go back in history and see how the Indians reacted to firearms. They're like, ooh, boomstick, let me get some of those. They recognized them for what they were. They were tools. They were weapons. And they wanted them.
Yeah, people are smart in this series. The Marines, they adapt pretty quickly to the world that they live in, that they find themselves in. And the bad guys do too. Maybe a little too fast, which is one of the scary things about this series.
Damn it, Dragon Mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A call back to the way back in book 1 in my day. But yeah, the that's the other thing about this that has been really fun. You don't have to be a reconnaissance Marine to follow the action. You know, if you don't know what an M110 or a 225, you don't know the difference between this type of mortar or whether you could fire it, point, or need a base plate. You managed to run that fine line of the people who know will enjoy this, and the people who don't will still enjoy this as well, which was really well done. So that was pretty dope.
And I remember, like, I grew up reading Tom Clancy when you had like 50-page digressions on the technicalities. Like, he spent like in how many I don't know how many pages just on the detonation sequence of the nuke in the Sum of All Fears.
All Fears, yeah.
It's just like I can enjoy gun porn as well as anybody else, but it has to let the story flow.
Yeah,
and that's where that kind of not dumb it down, but just ease people into it sort of comes in. The little references that guys, again, like you said, guys who know will get, other people will just kind of go, as if there isn't a Google machine to check what that is. But
low pro coming with the wisdom. If only Clancy knew how to write a love scene as well as he could a technical manual. Leo's saying that Pete does a great job of exposition on weapon details without getting lost in the woods. Moving exposition. So
yeah, I've had books where I've had to stop and, okay, that's too much of an info dump. Let's scrap that and do something else.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that I really enjoy is the description and horror inherent when you're describing the sorcery. We see it in the first book, and it's like, ooh. And then in the second book, you're like, oh, dear God, no. And the third book had a lot of combat, for lack of a better term. There was a lot of fighting and a lot of struggle in the third book. So that was kind of neat. And it was almost like the sorcery took a little bit of a back seat. Well, except for that boat scene. Yeah, that messed me up. Yeah, I needed a minute. I was walking the dogs and that, the thing's on the deck and its eye opens back up and I'm like, oh yeah, no.
Well, let's
So,
not forget when the black mist comes up out of the ground and makes the
yep,
entire enemy army completely lose their minds.
yep.
That kind of creeped me out writing it, but I got my start as a storyteller around campfires, giving Boy Scouts nightmares and stealing their sleep. So that might kind of
Have come into
might have
play.
transitioned into when I get to tell stories like this.
Now,
Let's put it this
Jeremiah,
way.
I was going to say, when you're drawing some of this stuff, do you ever do like like that campfire experience where you're like, yeah, this is not bad, and then you change a couple of details and you're like, okay, I need to step away from this because I might be degenerating.
That's what I'm trying for.
Yes,
In the land of ice and let's put it this way: in the land of ice and monsters, magic makes you puke. Everybody around it just gets sick. So hopefully, I can capture a little bit of that.
right on.
It's not D&D magic.
Which is exactly why we're here. So, what are you hoping to draw next once you finish this latest cover?
I want to do Mathgammon. Is that how you pronounce it? I want to do one of the Tuaca on a cover.
Oh, really?
That'll be awesome. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right on. And how would you draw that? Frame the scene for me.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have
Would
to
he have
think about that.
would he have a rifle? Would he have a sword?
I think he'd probably have to be fighting some kind of slime covered serpent coiled up in it,
Like you
trying
do.
to
But
trying to do the type of
I'm
sword fighting you do.
I'm
Where
seeing the Frazetta painting that I think is inspiring this piece.
it's like a jujitsu match with swords, kind of like how you watch armored knights with plate armor fighting with swords, and they're not swinging; they're holding the blade in the middle, and they're trying to feel for that gap, and it's like it's more of a high speed chess match at that point.
No.
You had me at jujitsu. But yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, that definitely be cool. Is there any
Walt is an aficionado of folding laundry with the people already in it.
in the clothes? It's true. It's true. If I can, I'm not a big guy, so like if I can thread my hands into your collar and get Jujihime so that, you pass out and I sit there and just smooth all the wrinkles, walk away laughing, before we revive you. Yeah, that's a good day. That's definitely a good day.
See,
But yeah,
I'm a much better boxer than I'm a grappler, so.
yeah. The fact that my nose is crooked means that I think I'm a great boxer.
I didn't say I was a great boxer. I just that I'm a better boxer than I am a grappler.
Oh, right on, right on. The Bradford Walker is saying that there's not enough half sorting in adventure fiction. So like people actually using, an arming sword or a long sword, the way it was used in like historical documents and stuff like that, because they had thick leather gloves wrapped in mail. They could do stuff like that and use the blade much more efficiently than just swinging it, swinging the pointy end toward the blunt bit, that they were angry at. So that would be definitely that. You guys are correct. That would be definitely cool. Leo saying slime covered serpent. I thought we weren't going to talk about politics. Well, there's some wish fulfillment in these books.
Yeah. At least I can stay away from some of the real world stuff in this series.
Right
Unlike
on.
some of my other stuff.
Well, and your other stuff, you have to research for days on some of this stuff.
Yeah. And some of it's not especially pleasant either.
Yeah, that sucks. Now, for the research on these, obviously Finnish, Celtic myth. What was the research on a lot of this like? Did you get to dive into some cool stories that you really enjoyed, or was it a lot of it work?
I'll say by this stage in the series, I'm just kind of building on a lot of what I'm doing is I'm just building a lot I've already developed. Sometimes I might go looking for I have um, I have a couple of lists of Pictish names bookmarked. If I need another Galel, I'll just go find it, because all the Galel names are Pictish. And whereas most of the Tuatha names and phrases are either bastard Irish Gaelic or straight up Irish Gaelic. With the Galel, I've generally gone Pictish with a little bit more of the sort of Arthurian. Like there's a place that features both in book 4 and book 5 called Corhafed, and I just pretty much stole that from either. I think I stole that from someplace in the Mabinogion, which has been a while since I've read, but that's an interesting collection of tales too.
Right on. Now, where's can you give us any hints of what happens after book 6? Do you have other series in mind? Do you have plans within plans? Inquiring minds want to know.
Book 6 is the end of this particular arc, and there is a currently 2-volume sort of spin-off duology, which is going to be a bit more of the traditional fantasy. No firearms involved. It's all swords and bows and spears and things of that nature. Set on a different continent, probably in a different time, but in the same world. And then there is going to be another series in the same world with at least a bridge to this 6-volume series at the beginning that we'll see things proceed further from as the ripples spread from the events at the in book 6.
Nice,
because the events of book 6 are going to be world shaking.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this bridge series that you're talking about, because I know some of the details, and I'm like, oh, this would be dope. So yeah, that would be. And do you have any ideas for who you might want to do the cover?
Well, Jeremiah's been doing a pretty damn bang up job so far.
Right.
Hey, I'm down.
If he's down, I'd say let's press on.
Oh yeah. That's fantastic. So before we douse the fire under the Coir Ansec and shut the Great Hall so that we can all go about and grab Book 5, The Alchemy of Treason of the Lost by Peter Nealon. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like people to know before we skip on out?
Read the book, buy more copies, give copies to your friends so that I can afford to keep doing more of this.
This is it. Says, I think I remember you saying the Tuatha were straight from the Tuatha De Danann, right?
Pretty close, yes.
Did I say that correctly?
I think Tuatha De Danann is the way it's usually pronounced.
All right, I was close. All right, I've been trying to say that for the last 10 years correctly, and it's never going to happen.
Gaelic's a tough language.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't actually speak it. But essentially they're a combination of the Tuatha De Danann and Tolkien's elves, because the Tuatha De Danann were not nice people.
Yeah,
they did not have this sense of honor and right that the Tuatha De Riamog have. You get into the old stories, and it gets ugly real quick.
Yeah, because they were into some old
Greek myth ugly.
Yeah, they were into some like old worship of like some pretty sinister stuff, like forces of like nature, and not just like flowers and rose petals, like nature.
Yeah, and in fact, there's it is generally believed that the Tuatha De Danann sort of morphed in legend into the Sidhe, the Fey people and the people of the mountains, which is why they were why they're as sinister as they are, because the ancestors of the Gaels came to Ireland and basically drove the Tuatha De Danann underground, and
They weren't happy about it.
no, no.
Right on. Jeremiah, final thoughts before we swing the portcullis shut?
Keep reading these books because, in my experience, they get more and more heavy metal.
Hell yeah. And if people read more books, we can get you for more covers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We want to thank everybody for coming out. Pete, where can people find you if they're looking to get all your stuff and all your catalog?
All my stuff's on Amazon. My website is AmericanPraetorians.com. And fortunately or unfortunately, I'm still on the Facebook.
Facebook.
Pete Nealon author. So that's pretty much where you can find me. There's a contact form if you really want to scream at me on the website.
Right on. We just want to thank both Pete and Jeremiah for coming out tonight. Thanks for everybody who hung out with us tonight for most of the chat. A lot of great people, some great questions. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. If you can, check out Book 5, The Alchemy of Treason. It's on Amazon right now. Pick it up. You will not be sorry. And we will catch you next time we'll catch you back here for Book 6. We'll see what trouble we can get into.